We're back with the CEP of this week or this month with the topic of human development, personal development, and skill set. The last time we talked about the worldview, which is something the blend between philosophy and human development and how we construct our theory, how we construct our mind, and how we construct the way we're seeing things, explaining things. So what that one is supposed to be on philosophy, but it's do more uh, human approach than the idea approach of things. And I just realized that actually, when we want to talk about like everything else of the topics, when we talk about sustainability, we talk about nonprofit, we talk about philosophy, sociology, psychology, educations, project planning, even finance and other stuff. We have different way to construct that. I have different way to construct the ideas when I create this kind of program, and I forgot to tell everybody about that. Even I do mention it somehow last year about the reading skill, scientific reading skill, and scientific data collection skill. It's just personally working in science fields, and I think it's have really clear structures of thinking and reasoning and analyzing the data and make sure you double check of your self bias and your self falsifiable idea that might be manipulated data and construct a wrong conclusion. And I think it's important, and it does help me a lot in personal development and worldview construct and learning in the new skill of the idea. So, and I think it's important, like modern human development skill that we should have. That is scientific thinking skill. Normally, what we have, and I do take a look about online courses, but uh, general speaking, what we learn and what we can train ourselves is critical thinking. But what we normally do, and after go through this, I believe you're going to see that scientific thinking is not really different with critical thinking, but it's more structural and regulation of the critical thinking, I want to say. And it's helped you understand the logic, bring it into work, analyze it, the data, remove the bias, and construct something that really generate to the real knowledge that is the major idea in their society now. That is the major idea and foundations and explorations and new technology movement data source for decision making process is all based on scientific materials and evidence, then philosophy, then mysticism and religion belief or cultural standpoint. So so in the modern time, and especially work on sustainability and education, scientific thinking is something you are looking for, easier to practice than the critical thinking in general. So that pretty much is the objective today. We try to see what a scientific thinking is and how hard it is. Is that possible? Is that for everybody? And how we construct it and how we can apply it in the real world. Let's see what we have in here. So, when the idea of scientific thinking, we always think that is something for scientists, but actually it's not. With Dunbar, Kevin, and Cloud, that started in 2012 about scientific thinking, which is really huge. It's on Oxford Handbook, and it is really high quality study. And they do have literature review for long history of scientific thinkings for 400 years ago, seen the emerging in science in 17th century, and until now, when it's so super developed and have some issue, but it's still moving on and try to emerge out of the field of the society. And that what we develop the scientific thinking. Now we see that scientific thinking first is a thinking in the content of science, of course. The majority, someone would call themselves scientists, got to have scientific thinking and practice the scientist thinking into the real value that construct their role as a scientist. So whatever related to science, people working there, gotta talk about a scientific way of thinking, and that's pretty clear. Boundaries with when you bring up mystic mysticism, okay, way of thinking, religion of thinking, which is belief without answer, mysticism, and which is a little bit related to conspiracy theory, which is no evidence. I just believe it. I just it might in the mystic. You can never find the evidence for that because the government, the hidden world order, whoever the aliens hidden hide it from us. So that's why it's mystic. But believe me, I have some logic up there. Well, it's hard that way with scientific thinking. So it's not called scientific thinking. And of course, emotion, bringing too much emotion in scientific thinking is not the way it is. That's why it's a boundary. When we talk about science, we got to use scientific thinking. When we talk of something, we based on a science, we're gonna move into some direction with scientific thinking. You just cannot move everywhere, whatever variance, and go to whatever kind of the religion and emotions and something mysticism, all kind of stuff. You not go through. Scientific thinking have their patterns, have the structure, and have the staff. That is it. But we do have another practical model of scientific thinking, which is applied for our daily life. This is the second part. The set of reasoning process that we normally practice in the field of science. But if you're not scientist but you still apply on this process of induction, deduction, experimental design, causal reasoning, concept formation, hypothesis testing, you basically practice scientific thinking. You just not do it all the time, like for a scientist for a living. But if you practice that somehow you're doing scientific thinking, have a clear critical thinking and well-structured critical thinking of the way you consume the data and conceive the worlds. We see that the symbol of that deduction, abduction, and induction, which is really famous. K, swan and black swan. That's why they called hypothesis of a black swan in science. So deduction is mean we have first hypothesis, all swans are white and Daisy is one, right? So the conclusion is Daisy is white. That's why the deduction is this assumption, right? Scientific assumption. You can call hypothesis. Second, going through the same conclusion normally is going through the literature, since literature review of study for hundreds of years. And they call abduction like this. All the swans are white. So Daisy is white, right? Based on the objective of the Daisy. So Daisy is one. But that's also a different way of the concluding the answer of that. But we have another one in here. It's called induction. Daisy is one swan and white. Danny is one and white. Dante is one and white, and so on for thousands or 10,000 of sample of swan and white. So we concluded all swan is white. That's how we normally see it now. You collect data and you collect enough population sample and you conclude it based on that empirical evidence. But what if the 10,001 is black? This one fall off because it's not all swan anymore. That's how the black swan hypothesis going in the science. That's why science keep moving up. Science keep moving up, collecting data, more and more data, more variants of ideas. It can show up limitation. And this, without this induction, to have some sort of the ideas as the well-structured streamline of knowledge, all swan are white, we cannot do deduction and we cannot do abduction anymore. So this thing is the most important one, right? Well-structured. Like for example, with biology, we all accept that we're Darwinianism, right? Darwinian. We don't accept that the theory of evolution. We all species on Earth have a connection, right? And they all have somehow connect together and they have some evaluation and structure from cell and DNA. Remember that the topic we talked about last year about what the meaning of life, right? Or what is life from a physiologist. It all start from cell and start from DNA sort of information and growing up. And we human being with fungus and closer with other vegetable and we and chimpanzee is something sharing idea. So all construct in the one first induction, that is the Darwinian theories of evolution. So that's why if the theory of evolution fail, all the science related to that fail. Basically, that's how it's works. And that's why they gotta go through, keep proving that and keep drawing a boundary, that which one we can prove it, which one we cannot prove. That is scientific thinking. So that induction and deduction and abduction. We have experimental design, basically create a design experiment and put it on the sample and test it, and then see how it's work. Causal reasoning, just try to see which lead to what the relationship between different variables, different things, different phenomena, and which one decide of which is a causal relationship, or it's just correlation. It's just some sort of relationship. We don't know it yet, but it have relationship. And a concept formation, create the whole concept of idea, which you go bigger into the theories. And the testing hypothesis, of course, they coming up. Go back with the experimental design, so that how the scientific thinking keep like a well-rounded system. But the important is you got to have reasoning, you got to have testing, and you have to have the design. There's another part of that, something related to education is in here. With Zimmerman 2007. Zimmerman actually come up with his colleges with a couple more study about try to improve the scientific thinking in the school level, which is like P12 primary school children, and even citizen science, which is when covered in a later slide, related to people who unprofessional scientists but still can think scientifically, because that's how they construct the belief and construct the right representative of fact in the systematic of human knowledge, basically. And the idea they put it profiles in Zimmerman 2007, it is reasoning and thinking skill, right? Involved in scientific inquiry, basically, is that the different represent of scientific thinking based on reasoning and based on hypothesis generation, which is hypothesis creation. Experimental design, the same thing. Evidence evaluation, which is we need to have that too, and drawing inferences. So now we can see that scientific thinking is outside of science, right? But it also go into the application of science and whatever topics and field of study that science can reach out. Pretty much everything now, except something science cannot reach out. We call it pseudoscience, mysticism, and religion, right? Outside of theology. And some metaphysics, philosophy. This cannot touch with scientific thinking, but we can touch it with some philosophical thinking, which is we can cover in the external worldview topics. But anything else, politics, social, economic, laws and regulation, human behavior, cultural, geography, biology, right, cosmology, astrophysics, whatever it is, education, child education, right? Life and death, whatever can cover by science can go through by scientific thinking. And we keep testing. We keep checking on the pseudoscience that we cannot check by scientific thinking, but we keep checking, keep testing to see if that can explain by scientific thinking or not. But the first rule that you got to test to know is it's on belong to science or not, or something else out there. Okay. So we talk about here, it's about patterns of scientific thinking. Luckily, the Project Zero of Harvard, you will see, about the nature of scientific thinking, where they create really great materials about key patterns of scientific thinking, which is they also construct pretty good program for teaching new generation about scientific thinking. That is, I think it's really interesting. We're going to apply it in a practical education program. We want to come into support for P12 or students in the underrepresented groups, that they can now they can practice the scientific thinking and understand how the scientific constructs that create the world knowledge. So first pattern, creative and critical thinking. Yep, we don't think science is dry and boring with logic and number, but actually science start with creativity and critical. Of course, critic is something you're testing. We see up here that they say that creative. What is the creative? We start with the new ideas. We think outside the box. We question the nature of the world, and then we connect that imagination with logic, which is critical thinking. Then communicate this idea to others in partnership. We can cover it in later materials. And many times this idea go against the prevailing belief system, and which happen a lot in the beginning of science. That's why science break out of the idea of philosophy and stand out again religion belief, because we see Galileo, right, Copernicus, Isaac Newton. So I have the examination of the idea of Isaac Newton in here. Isaac Newton is almost try to proving these laws of gravity or gravitation. The formula we have now is hard. Nobody understand it during that time. But how do you prove it? How do you test it? So he need more calculation tools, or you can say that experimental design to test it, because we cannot test how the gravity work in the different object in the planet Earth, right? And we don't know how that falling off the apple falls and everything else is have some kind of the structural and concept. And can human being can calculate it, or we just accept it as a law of nature? Yes, we just don't know. But Isaac Newton, he said that, well, I know it, and I can calculate it. And here's how I calculate it. You don't prove it by the practical, not only by practical evidence, but you also prove it by theoretical calculation and theoretical approach. And during that time, the mathematic concept is not good enough and not even exists. So he invented calculus to work on the number. And that's going to the the Principia of the Mathematica, which is the most significant study of Isaac Newton. So basically, I observe the phenomenon of the apple fall down on the earth and everything else. Why is it happening? And how I can know it, how I can predict it, and how it's different, and how its similarity is. And that's the whole question make Isaac Newton think. And then after he think about, oh, there's something abstract out there. Even now we still cannot explain clearly why, but we have some sort of idea. How do you prove it? You just cannot just collect 10 millions of the object falls from the height down to the earth to explain that, because there are billion variants of the object fall out by the gravity. And during that time, they don't have that much of data to share with each other and construct the system of observation. So what he do? He tried to prove it by math, right? Math is a language of logic. So well, math, he cannot prove it wrong. And the math system is not good enough. So he created the new math, branches of math to calculate his idea, calculus. So, and you see that during that time, Isaac Newton is still natural philosopher than the mathematicians. But that's how you go it. You think outside the box and you create the tools to do it. And everybody can do it. All right. So that's why I call that scientific thinking. There's some sort of critical thinking, but in more clear structural. There are multiple ways of critical thinking: model, patterns, sample, idea, case study, philosophy. There are a lot of those. And I find a lot of models, but I think this model is the most simple way to understand it. See the phenomenon, see something happen, see a topic, see the issue, have some ideas. Start, ask a couple questions, right? Why, when, where? So description, the idea, and then you analyze it, right? Go through, analyze it, why and how. This one is not clear because critical thinking is small. It starts from philosophy and they go to different field study later. So that's why it cannot be clear. It got to be big, like a framework to fit up with multiple different way of thinking. It's not every way. You got to be step by step, because when you're touching different topics, the question, the way to answer the questions will be different, right? Some philosophy questions, like what is ethics, right? What's right or wrong, right? When we know it's right or wrong, right? Who decides the right and wrong, and where the right and wrong it changed the definition, and why it's happened like that, right? And how we construct the idea of what the right or wrong, and how even we construct the ideas, right? And what if, right? What if what we know is wrong? What if what we think from beginning is wrong, right? So so got to pick up the side, and then we evaluate it, right? So what? Okay, now we know what's right, what's wrong. What next? What got to do with the real life? So this model is kind of simple, but I think it's a good framework to starting with critical thinking. But of course, when you have the scientific thinking, you can see that scientific thinking actually is the same, but a more clear approach of this. All right, the second patterns of scientific thinking is an extensive documentation. Yes, that is important. Many scientists have notebook drawing, basically. Why they need documentation? Because they can have revision, which just means you write down the idea and you take a look back about the idea and feedback about yourself idea and revise the idea. And then you're helping down thinking to paper and reduce the memory load, because that is our limitation. We all forgot. We cannot remember everything. Well, the AI might be remember everything, but we not remember everything. That's how having note taking and documentation and writing is so important to construct the ideas and mind, and how you deliver the creativity and critical thinking into the work. Okay, you have really famous, well-rounded genius Leonardo da Vinci with 6,000 pages of manuscript in him. Yeah, mirror handwriting. He said writing on the left side, both handwriting. So, and now we got to go through the different years now, 1,000 years now. We're coming back to see that. All right, that's how the genius in 15th century construct his mind and going through his idea, write down his ideas and how we construct it. That's how you can, and that is might be some key idea related to creativity thinking, but creativity thinking is something we cover in different topics. But this topic, we know that writing is important and stretch out ideas is important, because if you cannot make it clear and keep revising, it's hard to be right. That's why in Greenify, we really hypothetical emphasize the habit of writing, because it's important. If you're not write down what you think, you'll forget it. And second, when you write down, you see how you can reflect yourself, visually, right? And third, you can give to others for feedback. And fourth, you can do something with that. When we have a well-constructed idea, that this writing is important. Once again, for this idea, I mean, Socrates and walk around and asking questions and understand on his mind. But without Plato's write down the story, nobody know, right? Okay, they have a couple more simple in here from the Harvard project, basically like Einstein as a genius, right? Compare with Newton and other. Yeah, Einstein do write out of 14,000 letters and receive 16,000 something. If we do it now today, we'll do it checking on emails, exchange the knowledge between different scientists and thinkers. Writing is something very nice too. But whatever you do, construct the idea and make it to writing is something have you well organized. What do you think? Charles Darwin, Darwinian, do the same thing. He do write a lot. 5 year on his 5-year voyage to the trip to Beja, right? And he makes systematic documentation of his collection, and he writes 16 books. That's basically how you do it. Okay, the third component in here, or the patterns in here, is a strong power observation, basically observation, but you offer observation much more clear and attention to something different, something interests you more than other people. That's why I pick up this image of the citizen science course when covered later, but see that wear the glass and observe the nature. That's how you start to be a scientist and have scientific thinking. You observe the nature, you watch the flowers, say, why does it have this color? Why does it look like this? Why we need this? Why we need that? And you go back to find the answer of that. That's how you start the scientific thinking, and you practice the critical thinking, right? And you learn something, and you keep learning and learning and learning until you learn that. You learn about something that nobody knows. That is basically of Richard Feynman idea about science, doing science. Yeah, scientist is a learner, keep learning and learning, and one day you learn something that nobody knows. That's basically how it works. And four, systensis, the information and strong collaboration with other. Basically, you do looking crosswork in different field and collaborate with ideas and communicate with other colleges. that basically cover in literature review and other idea. That's why I put literature review in here, important. Have the quote in here. You have to know the past to understand the present. That's something in scientific world to see that maybe you think something you know now is something really new, something you finding something that saves the whole world or something crazy huge. You should have a couple Nobel Prize for this. But when you do literature review, you realize that someone already discovered in the 1950s, 1970s, where that is the time of science, Western science worlds. It really developed during the time of Cold War and after World War II, because of that time the science, the strong support by society and politics for develops more understanding by human, the country, the society, the weapon, and the worlds, and even the space. That's why the majority of study, when you take a look at lower timeline, 1990, 1950, so 1970, 1990, a lot of discovery we have and cover it there. That's why they got to go through that and dig deeper, because you just repeat other one. That's a pressurization, which is really huge now today in scientific. We don't want to repeat ourselves. We want to find something new, discover new knowledge, right? So that is some sort of basic 7-point idea of why literature review is important. First, right? You understand the concept. Second, you understand the clear topic and what other people do and they cannot do that they can go through, right? Third, you understand the topic, understand what you test, and narrow down the ideas that go to your right track, right? And other stuff is just going to a limitation and define the gap that we need to go through. The science have a lot of gap. What we need to do, fill the gap. That's how it works. All right, and I think that is the last one. Let's have one more. It's 5, taking advantage of serendipity. Basically, yeah, you might catching some discovery by accidents. So scientific thinking and scientists don't have to be doing in the lab and doing tests all the time. Sometimes by accident, by luck. Sometimes experiment bring out surprising finding. So that's why when you're finding that your hypothesis is wrong, well, it's not bad. So at least we get the wrong direction. Go through different direction. It's fine. We still have time to do it. And I think that emerging modern empirical study that we'd like to see the negative results of the test. So we know that this is the wrong direction. We should turn the other round. So that the other round might be taken other direction, or at least feel the further couple more steps. And then it go to the false, and where to go different route. That's how we improve it, right? We just go up like this. We don't know straightforward lineage like this. And if we have millions of people do the same thing, we expand the horizon of knowledge for the whole mankind. Well, the Harvard project, according to famous story of Louis Pasteur, who fired a vaccine with accident, left things in the lab, and Alexander Fleming, who developed penicillin by just left this lab and the mole, the dish out there, and go to vacation because cannot go anywhere. But when he come back, you see that the mole eating on the bacteria. That means that this mole has something that can kill the bacteria, and that whole part penicillin. And that is one of the greatest human greatest mistake in human history. Why? It's great because it's saving millions of life of that penicillin during the wartime and during the peacetime now. And to understand about microbiology, it's really helping we develop the future medicine study, pharmaceutical work. So thank to the mistake and thank to the something outside of scientific work, we have developed science. Okay, last but not least, we have the sixth one, the last one. That is scientific thinking. You actually should apply all the technology and resort as much as you have, because that's how you're testing out the future of a study and how you understand the idea of the world. There's a lot of tests, the lots of theory that cannot prove it wrong and cannot prove it's right because of limited technology. If we cannot observe the black hole, we cannot observe the testing out some idea in the universe and law of physics. We cannot see the big generativity theory is work or not. And if we test so small quantum physics, we see that is a work or not of that theory. the technology is something really huge. And here I do quoting some MIT review of 10 breakdown technology early this year. So first of all, of course, we have AI, right? And how they develop the AI and computers, you gotta base on the technology, right? It's the chip. That's why NVIDIA is so huge, so big now, because the cheap technology they make with powerful, empowering the computers, and a more powerful computers, the AI will be much more potential and talents and learning a lot of things with that. So thanks to the technology development, that how we have all the convenience of using AI for free and all kind of stuff. Okay, super efficient solar cells. So now the solar cell are more efficient. And on their study about the solar power and how to transfer electricity, the power and sustainability development study now is much more developed thanks to the technology improvement of the creating solar cells and engineering. All right, App and Vision Pro. This one is interesting too. And the technology of that is a collective and huge. Weight loss drug, yeah. So medication like Mounjaro and Wegovy, it just depend on the really rising of the microbiologists and pharmaceutical work that can make the drug much more effective now. Now we can more enhance with geothermal system because the new drill technology can drill deeper and new engineering transferring the energy. Without the better drill, we cannot have a better geothermal study. Well, now we have better stuff to do, technology to do it. Yeah, chiplet, this thing is important. The chip get better and smaller, so we put more chip in the computers, right? That create the more powerful computers and even powerful like device like phone. Now they can do a lot of things with that. Okay, first gene editing treatment. So now we have the new treatment, which is what go biochemicals practice based on the new technology, and that you can do ability to cure the sick cell disease, right? Because now they can editing the gene structural computers, which is based, of course, the chipping process and manufacturing is much better. Now can evaluation, simulation. See that they developed these computers and have a more sophisticated simulation of climate, nuclear fission, turbulence, and more. So now other study of climate science, climate change, nuclear powers, and nuclear scientist applications, turbulence energy is much more accurate and much more accessible and go clear to the real data nowadays, thanks to the development of the computers. The heat bomb, right? All right, this heat bomb can run higher temperature, could help decarbonize industry. So that means they don't need to burn too much gas and electricity to create the heat. But now they have a better heat pump that substantially reduce emission will release the air, which is something huge for sustainability development. All right, okay, Twitter killer. Yeah, they do challenge with Twitter. Why Twitter is something really big? It's more like Western culture, more popular in there, and of course, and it is one of the first platform focused on dialogue and discourse. Then other social media that try sharing picture with some partialized idea, which is not well constructed. That's why the power of Twitter. That's why scholar and politicians use Twitter, and businessmen use Twitter more than other platform because in that they have a strong community. That's basically the difference. Okay, anyway, so that is pretty much the 6 patterns of the scientific thinking. We have another scientific thinking way that represent in the word a term of citizen science. So the term of citizen science by Oxford English Dictionary basically is a collection and analysis of data related to the natural world by member of general public, typical as part of collaborative project with professional scientists, although the other perspectives basically that students and any farmers and other people can do factory worker, whoever you are, you can become citizen scientist by conduct citizen science work. Basically, it is. You don't have to be a scientist to do that science now. The tools are free. It's about you practice it or not, right? And this citizen science terms are really popular in natural science. That is small. It's simple by just observe, collecting raw data and connect with the majority community, which have the most professional scientists led. So you can construct something that you can finally now you can find the answer of the question. Like for example, come back with this boy, right? 2 or 3 grade, just go around and see the flower. I want to know why the color is purple. And you ask your dad or mom. I'm not sure your dad or mom can answer it correctly, but you take a picture of that and you upload it to the scientific community. They have a lot of citizen science community out there for nature science. And you can take a picture of the animals, or the tree, or the bees, or the pet, whatever you want to do, study on that. Take a picture, share with community, and they're going to give you the answer scientifically. And that empower for anyone on Earth can discover and contribute to our scientific knowledge. Sometimes we take a picture of black swan, right? All the flowers purple at 5 leaves, right? And 5 angles like this. Then take a picture of the red one with 6 peas. Is that a black swan? They gotta keep studying it again, right? All scientists jump in and say, "Wow, something new. You gotta study it," right? And during that time, you also learn about how the scientist running a scientific project by keep construct a semi experiment and test hypothesis. After testing out constructed data, represented data, prove that hypothesis is right or wrong. Is a new hypothesis, okay, to go a different way to study it again. But that is something we discover. We discover that someone think about this is right, no, it's wrong. That's also discovered. So this is the Open University free course about citizen science and global biodiversity. And the link is up here. Anyone who have this slide can abstract on that. And the idea they prove it out is pretty easy to access because they make it for citizen science. That's why even you can start from a children 10, 5 to 10, I mean 6 to 10 or 18, they still can practice it. Have 8 weeks and the teaching down how to use different platform to discover the nature. And I think they do give you some certificate. But the certificate is depend what you need on that. And the course in here really well structured. First, what is citizen science, right? How do you define it? Right? And testing. And so this one you go more biodiversity and concept. Okay, have an ID technique. Basically, you take a picture and you take a sample of that biology sampling in nature, and you use a web sort and you apply for that. All right. Here's some basic platform in here. Okay. See. And week 7, which is great thing is they show you what is the online citizen science community. They have a different iSpot, a great apps. We have a lot of different community and the taxonomy hierarchy and other community they can attend into. Like I tell some of my mentees about how do you want to observe a star, you want to learn about meteorology, say, yeah, just take a picture of that, upload it in online citizen science community. They're going to explain to you what a star is that, how do you observe it, how it look like, how you want to know more about this, click on this, and you read it, and now you have more enlarge your mind and knowledge, and you know more about the science of the star and the sky, and maybe you want to do cosmology or they want to do some astrophysics, and that's how then future scientists were born based on their hobby. And of course, they have a lot of community in here. Yeah, and have it give you the system, give you the big data, give you the technology, give you all the other scope, and give you a lot of friends that share the same idea that which is something important to keep up this work of science. All right, this thing is natural science, more citizen science concept. And in the future, you may want to go through in some community development event and community education event. I want to teach all the kids around the world, not only in Vietnam and other developing countries, but also the United States and other side of the world, to know about citizen science, which is have the kid and the young children, young talent to construct the ideas. And I think they do the same thing with philosophy too. I do subscribe society, a project named Plato philosophy, and they running a couple of bring up idea philosophy program into the classroom with the P12 small children. To now we should have a better way of thinking. That is philosophical thinking. This is scientific thinking, and they all support each other to help us to understand, construct our idea and mind, understand what's the fact, what is objective, what is subjective, and what is not true, what is mystic, what is pseudoscience, what is blind belief, and what is not the thing we're talking about. Because what you based on, basically that idea. You based on theory and philosophy, or you based on empirical science or practical evidence. Okay, so this is another class. Was Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of their bachelor of science worlds. He's so famous with it in the show and the way he construct the uh, astrophysics idea that is really well routed to have the common citizen can understand it. And he do have the course in master class, and you can sign up on that to teach you something in simple concept, short video, and nice story with a well storytelling ability to talk about how you construct the scientific thinking. So his course name is Scientific Thinking and Communication. Basically, how you think like a scientist and how you communicate it with the world. We're gonna go brief some idea of that course in here first, and which is the most important. What do you know? What you know is not as important as how you think, because what you know might be not even right. Why you need to share to me? Because you don't even know how to think it correctly. You don't eliminate the bias. Let me show you up here: cognitive bias, cultural bias, and belief bias, religion bias, something. You don't remove the bias. You don't draw out the boundary. Not clean your data. You might be provide the wrong information. That's why what did you know is not important anymore if it's wrong, right? We got to see how you think first. If you think scientifically or logically, maybe your idea have some value. But if you just think like randomness, crazy idea coming out from nowhere, conspiracy from mystic pull out from thin airs and make everybody believe in that at well constructed ideas and belief. Well, sorry, but I cannot agree with that. And I throw for you a lot of questions. That's how it works. Of course, I explain a bit about the frontier of science, which is what the role of science to discover new knowledge. And the third, the scientific method. He don't go deeply about scientific method, but he explained why it's important, why separate scientific knowledge and information with other information from religion, from wisdom, from cultural, from history, because you got to go through a scientific method of testing. And then the fourth is skeptic, ask question, keep asking question. That basically idea of critical thinking and the basic idea of scientific thinking, but how we construct the question is different. And of course, all the bias we're going to have, which just mean that we as human being could be wrong. Our tools could be wrong. The knowledge of people in the history could be wrong. So be careful of that. Eight, the measurement. Measurement is important. The majority of practical empirical study now without measurement is proof nothing. You fall into theory. Yeah, keep theory up there. We'll find a way to apply it. And when you not have a well construct of the barrier of your study, it could be applying wrong. That's why the theory, I call Maslow theory, that I keep telling about that, or Freud idea of psychoanalysis is sound pretty good in theory, but when it apply, it no evidence. It's not enough evidence to well construct that idea. So it stay back with the idea theories. Yeah. We appreciate your way of thinking, but it's not work for this modern time and modern populations. Okay, communications is not enough to be right. You know you're right. Now, for example, you go through this A step, you find something, you know you're right. But how you communicate it to make people understand it, right? I understand. You want the people not to build up the bridges in over the sea, over the river, because you don't want to kill all the ecology living that river. And you have all the evidence. You clean up all the data to remove all the bias and everything. And now you know you're right. We cannot build the bridge, but you just cannot say go out to talk with the contractors and the local governor and say we cannot build the bridge because I'm right and here how I present it. and you present 300 page of study with 20 graphics in there, and nobody understand what you're saying about, and you lost every one of them in the first page. Well, that's how you communicate. And how do you prepare for your audience? You know your audience, who are they, and how they understand it, how level of theory and idea you want to provide to them. You cannot want to provide something too complicated. You cannot say scientific and theory someone who don't have no idea about what that is. Well, it takes 3 to 5 years to understand what theory is, and people don't have that much of time. We have different work to do. Of course, you teach some communication tactics, which is nice, and inspire curiosity, which is nice too. Because curiosity, when the audience start ask you a question, it means they do have attention of your study, and they do want to know more. And then when they want to know more, that's the hook. That means you can provide for them the answer. But if they don't want to know more, this is ignorance. Yeah, I don't care. What do you think, man? I don't care. So everything else doesn't matter. Whatever you find out doesn't matter. Of course, the future, our world is something inspiring about future based on science. Yeah, the course link is right here too, if someone want to take note of that. All right, let's go through science. When you say that the bias and idea, I like to use this graph because it's so nice, and I think I collect it in someone in Quora. We talk about the education and science. The source is right here, Professor Math Might, the illusion guide to a PhD. In the article is so nice. Here why we know about knowledge. What knowledge we have? Private school, what you learn in school, teacher teach you. Secondary school, people keep teaching you a little bit different. What do you learn? But expanding. Bachelor degree, you know that much. A little bit bigger, feel a little bit know of everything. But they have something up here, concentration. I see them moving up a little bit. Concentration makes you different with other people out here. And master degree, you go strong, focused on this period of time and focus on this knowledge. And you start to see now the knowledge is go narrow down and more concentrated. That's why I call concentration. And now you spend a lot of time reading research paper and do your own research. You go on this. And your own research going on the whole human knowledge route, the circle, human knowledge, with billion of idea to create this boundary. You are here. Okay. When you expand a new thing and getting a new horizon of mind, you're finding something new, right? Discover something is right or wrong. It's right here. So small, nobody see it. But you do something that generate new idea that a circle don't have. And imagine billions of scientists do that for generation to generation of all mankind. They expand the whole circle, bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why all human knowledge expand. When keeping someone break down the boundary and go further than that. And that's what happened. And also something that for someone who fear of unknown. Now you know. On this wipe concept up here. And on the thing outside of human knowledge circle is unknown, basically. And not include the thing you forgot from this stuff. This is unknown. That's why when the deeper understanding of things, you will realize that you don't know a lot of things. That is a lot of things inside circle. You don't know a lot of things of other expert, other scientists, other learner doing. But you don't dumb. You don't learn what they're doing in a certain amount of time and space. You don't know. This is the amount unknown inside humanity. And the wise thing outside a circle is the thing we don't know about the world, the nature, the universe, the different civilization. So we don't know a lot of things logically. And the more you know, see that this more, the more we don't know, comparing. So that, yeah, you don't need to have that much anxiety or fear of unknown. That we basically live in a world unknown. It's normal thing. Like example in physics is astrophysics. The naming 98% of the dark area in the universe to naming why we cannot explain what with that, and we don't know where it come from, and we don't know what it got to go. We call it dark matter. Yeah, it's dark. So everything out here is dark with the whole mankind. Everything out here is dark with you. And you don't fear the dark because you know that it's out there. You're just moving up, and moving up. That basically of how that scientific thinkings look like. And these are the tools, education. Yeah, you can take all this but this degree and formal system out. You can change it into a different way of knowledge formal knowledge, social knowledge, informal knowledge, all kind of wisdom, something. But we keep learning, keep learning, keep learning until you learn something people don't know. That is small thing right here. That's how it's work. Okay, I think this is the last part of this thing. I do using my dissertation as a part to explain of how to construct an empirical study, how to construct an empirical um, scientific thinking, put into active, put into writing. Okay, and you can see a lot of that step is showing up in the present about before this. First, you need abstract. Why need abstract? Because the abstract is representative of your observative conclusion. The abstract basically tell the audience of, okay, what the whole point of this study is. We're testing those sample and we draw out this conclusion. That's it. 3 sentence. And they want 10 sentence, extend it. That's it. Problem solving is going to why the first chapter, they go to the statement of problem, they go to the proposal of this study, why I need to read this study, why you do this study, as significant in this study, either value this study have any value, or you just waste your time, or we just waste our time to reading this. We call problem solving. It's up here. Of course, you gotta have problem to solve it, right? It could be some gap in study. It could be we don't know this, so now I want to know it. And the proposal, my study is about to solve the problem. So we got a clear problem, and then how to solve it, right? It's significant. I think that solving the problem can bring up a significant contribution to the general literature of leadership and management, whatever educations, and that is significant for the understanding of the higher education structure, for example, and which is we don't have. That's the problem solving idea. The two thing up here that you can see in scientific thinking is research question and general methodology. That is logical reasoning. Well, we have a lot of reasoning way. It's just questioning. But logical questioning and scientific questioning, scientific reasoning or inquiries would say, you got to write a question that meet the problem and how you solve it. And you got to have the methodology to deal with it, on the method or the tools to deal with that question. That basically is. And there's something really important, and we don't see it in other patterns. That's why I put it in here. I put it in my study last. Because every dissertation we have delimitation and limitation and definition. Why it's important? Because it gives you awareness of what you know and what you don't know, what you can test, what you cannot test in a certain time. And when they say it, what do you mean? Definition, right? If you cannot agree about a single definition of thing, we cannot go anywhere, because everybody have different definition. There are 200 or 300 different definition of cultural. If you cannot go pick up one definition that work, the whole study collapse, because just definition different. That's why you see that the study is so small. Even it's 700 pages, 3 to 5 or 16 copies of study revised 10 times. But if it's just based on some sort of definition, 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 20, but it compare with 180 and 190 and keep coming up different definition, it could be wrong. That's why it's the limitation of study. The empirical study always have limitation. Then nothing scientifically have no limitation. Even the general relativity theory of Einstein, they all have limitation. That is, we clarify rational of what we know and what we don't know. That's why up here, know yourself. And that's why scientific thinking really have you build up the self-awareness. But you know that you don't know things. You know that you are just tiny little contribution to the human knowledge. That's how you started self-awareness. Okay, the second part, the literature review, basically is connecting knowledge. No other people do, no other people work. I keep telling people, might be something you discover as some guy already covered in 1950s. So why we need to listen to you? That is something. And what you presented, well, I tested with a modern population with a new methodology. That is something new, right? So that is somehow this is a purpose of this study. Problem solving. Theory is great, 100% agree. But how it applies with 21st century population? Well, you got to test. That has to work. And of course, you got to go conceptualizing. You got to know the theory. That's why the whole point. Why you need to learn thousands of theory, thousands of philosophical thinking, multiple model. What you got to do? You got to pick the one you wanted to follow up. That's called conceptualizing. So all scientists in the general conceptualizing, they know how to see the big picture. Because if you cannot conceptualize and you know where you are in this literature review system and literature of the study system, and you go nowhere, right? You got to have the root, stand on the ground. That's conceptualizing. And then where we go? Yeah, the different chapter 3. Let's go. Some research design basically is the way you do the practical approach. Like you can use the word experimental design in the first definition. It is the same thing. So that is, you have the methodology, you have a question. Now you design it, make it real, make it like a model, how many people you could participate, how data we're treating, how you compare it, what the boundary of your case, right? The boundary is important. That's also the know yourself idea. That's why give no limitation and emphasize limitation in every chapter. So that's helping you build up your self-awareness a lot. And we have some here, data management analysis and trustworthiness. It's about ethical checking. That's why all the scientists who have scientific thinking always have ethical checking and bias checking, because we know that all kind of science, practical, so based on human conduct, they have bias and have ethical issue. And that also see another like scandal in scientific worlds, academia, Harvard, Stanford, MIT. It's all about ethical stuff. You quoting other people's idea and you claim it is yourself, following up citation, reference, everything. So ethical checking is something you need, and bias checking is something you need in scientific thinking. And of course, when you represent a result, you need to clarifying the work. Okay, I answered 4 questions. This is my question 1, question 2, question 3, right? It's just like what their other course talking about, how you communicate with your audience. The same thing. Okay, and chapter 5, discussion, we're talking about finding new knowledge. Yep, this is the tiniest thing you contribute to the mankind as a human knowledge. You gotta find something new up here, or I mean, why are you spending time doing this if you cannot find something new, right? It could be you testing it could be you testing the old theory for 15 years ago and say, yeah, it still work with this population. It's great, right? But if testing it is not work with the population, so what you gotta do? You gotta develop a better model, or you gotta expand the model, or you gotta develop a new version of that with apply a different work. Or you found out you found the limitation of the old 70 years old theories that cannot apply with this theory. That's why a lot of theories in the history cannot work for now. That's finding new knowledge important for the scientific thinking. And believe me, keep like Robert Feynman, right? Richard Feynman, keep learning and learning and learning. And one day you're gonna find out you learn something that nobody knows. That's how you're finding new knowledge, right? Of course, chapter 5, we have limitation again, because that double checking. We double check about limitation. We know our limitation. That's how scientific thinking doing. Critical thinking, well, keep critic of their own knowledge, because they know you have bias, you have some sort of limitation of your mind, but you don't put it out. But in scientific thinking, you do have well-structured regulation of put down your limitation and keep checking your limitation, because you have limitation. Forgot it. You cannot develop everything, understand everything, knowing everything. Nobody do it. Nobody know everything, right? Only God know everything. Okay, and the last one, recommendation, interpreting the value. So the whole point, yeah, you're finding a lot interesting, discussing a lot. It's like hundreds pages doing that. So what's your recommendation for us? People who don't have time to study on this and don't have time to listen to you and read all 200 pages, what do you want to do? All right, here's the value for this study for different stakeholders. Here's the value I can apply in the future for myself. It's the value for the whole sort of mycologists in study of this field. Now they know that we can apply on this. They can multiple model on that, and that's how it works. Okay, and I think that ending up of this course talking about scientific thinking, and I think it's important. And one piece that I'm missing out, I should talk about this earlier, because that is the root of all this program of education, of nonprofit, of sustainability development, and external development, how to construct the world now. Because without scientific thinking, it's hard for you to believe on sustainability development. I heard a lot of criticize, a lot of bias, a lot of conspiracy theory about this whole green energy and sustainability development theory is a scam. And we not that government manipulate us, the scientists be well corrupted, anything else, all the information is wrong. Yeah, I mean, I cannot deny it, but how about you just use the way of well-constructed thinking to testing out all that idea and testing out your own statement, testing out your own idea and represent it to me. And let's see if we can come up to the truth that we both consensus truth. We will both agree that this thing, sustainability, climate change, is right or wrong, right? Non-profit is ethical or unethical, right? And ethical in what and ethical in what, and how we fix it and how we come up with something better, right? And I don't think you can go through it without scientific thinking. You can go somewhere with critical thinking, but without scientific thinking, you cannot construct connecting on the scientific evidence and study for 500 or 600 of years ago to coming in to support for your point, right? You have a point, you have a good point, but prove it, right? And make it work and make it practical. And in America, starting modern pragmatic, right? What useful is work. What not useful, yeah, lay on the dash. We think about that later. All right, pretty much yes. Thank you so much for spending time with this. Hope to see you next time. Thank you.